Hey, what is happening, you stuttering sunky? So the Pokemon card 151 set has been finally fully revealed. I've made a couple videos on this set up to this point talking about the reveals as they've been coming up. We finally have the full 165 cards from the Pokemon card 151 set. It has already released over in Japan, so they're already playing with the cards, and there's been some interesting results with some of their decks so far. I'm going to mention that as we take a look at some of these cards, but we won't be getting this everywhere else in the world until I believe September 22nd. So we're still a ways away from getting this set. It actually comes out after our next major set release, Obsidian Flames, which comes out on August 11th. So we're gonna get Obsidian Flames before we get the Pokemon card 151 set. So let's go ahead and let's jump right into it. Starting off with that Alakazam EX 350 oh sorry, 350 would be a lot. 310 HP Mind Jack. We've seen this attack before for 2 colorless energy. 90 damage plus 30 more damage for each of your opponent's bench Pokemon. Of course, your opponent's gonna have a ton of control over how much you can do with this attack, but if they're playing with 0 bench Pokemon, they're probably not set up very well and you're probably winning the game. And then a very unique attack in the Pokemon TCG. We've never seen anything quite like this. The dimensional manipulation for 2 psychic energy, 120 damage. This Pokemon can use this attack even when it's on the bench. So that's right, if you got the Alakazam set up on the bench with 2 psychic energy, you can have whatever you want in your active, and then you can do 120 damage to your opponent's active Pokemon. So it's only 120 damage, but this will allow you to sit certain things in your active that can make it really hard for your opponent to actually, pull off or do whatever they want to do. You can put stuff like Klefki in the active, or Empoleon V, or Ting Lu. There's a bunch of different things you could leave in your active to disrupt your opponent while also doing a decent amount of damage. 120 is really not that much. That's 2 hit KO or 3 hit KO in most relevant Pokemon in the current format. But if you're slowing your opponent down to the point where they're doing no damage, you got a Klefki in your active, then I think you'll take that trade-off. So a very cool, interesting attack here. We've never seen anything like this in the Pokemon TCG. Like I mentioned, I'm curious to see how it plays out. It doesn't seem inherently broken, just kind of a cool thing that we've never really seen before. So excited to see how it does. But yeah, it doesn't seem like it's going to be, game-breaking, groundbreaking kind of attack or anything like that, but we could see it actually pop up and be decent, which would be pretty cool to see. And I'd be interested to see if they make other attacks like that in the future that kind of do the same thing, where you can attack from your bench, leave whatever you have in your active, whatever you might have in your active Venusaur EX 340 HP. Got the ability Soothing Bloom. Once on your turn, if this Pokemon is in your active spot, you may heal 60 damage from one of your Pokemon, not just the Venusaur EX, but it does have to be in your active. And if it's in your active, it's probably the Pokemon getting hit, so it's probably the Pokemon you're healing. And then for Grass Colors, Potent Whip, 150, your opponent's active Pokemon is now poisoned and confused. So poisoned, confused on an attack combined, not too bad. Only 150 damage though. We're not really going to be able to one-hit KO anything, but at 340 HP, we're probably also not getting one-hit KO'd ourselves, and then being able to heal 60 damage from our Venusaur as well is a decent amount. If you get two of these things set up reasonably aggressively, and then you can kind of switch it back and forth in between them with like switch or something, you could theoretically heal like 120 damage from the last Pokemon that just got hit. Like I said, it was probably going to be the Venusaur. You got Venusaur on the active, it takes a hit, you use the Soothing Bloom, you switch to a new Venusaur, you use the Soothing Bloom, attack with that Venusaur, you've healed 120 damage of the damage your opponent just did. And like I said, 340 HP, not getting one hit KO'd, I don't think, by very much. But I'm still not blown away by this one. Those are the combos you could kind of throw together and maybe make it become reasonable. But yeah, not blown away at all. Charizard EX. Now this Charizard becomes a lot more interesting with the new Charizard that we just figured out is coming out in Obsidian Flames, which when that Charizard comes into play from evolving, you can search your deck for 3 fire energy and attach them to your Pokemon in any way you like. Now, this would involve setting up two stage 2 Pokemon, but that's not impossible. And throughout a game, it's really not that difficult to put together, to be honest. You can get 2 stage 2 Pokemon in play. It's a little bit more difficult when both of the stage 2 Pokemon are trying to evolve from the same Pokemon. It becomes a little bit more difficult then, but I think it's still pretty reasonable to do. So that would be the way you could accelerate the energy to this Pokemon. It's got 330 HP. Resolute Wings, 60 damage. If this Pokemon has any damage counters on it, it's going to do 100 more damage. So 164 on fire is pretty solid. Of course, we do have Magma Basin in the format, which could put some damage counters on this Charizard to get that damage on it. And then for 4 fire energy, we're looking at 330 damage. Discard 3 energy from this Pokemon. So attachment for turn, the ability from the other Charizard EX coming out of Obsidian Flames, that can get you to this 4 fire energy cost for the Detonating Vortex to basically one-hit KO anything in the format. 330 is a lot of damage. Not many things can withstand a hit of 330 damage. So that could be a cool combo. Charizard EX, Charizard EX deck, Charizard EX, and Charizard EX. You know, you never know. There's also the Pokemon Go Charizard as well that could find its way into this Charizard box type deck. We'll have to wait and see how it really develops, but definitely very interesting. Getting a lot of potentially powerful Charizards, get them all cooking together, and who knows what will kind of come of all of that. Blastoise EX, 330 HP. It's got that solid shell ability. This Pokemon takes 30 less damage from attack, so effectively 360 HP. And then for water, discard up to 2 basic water cards from your hand. This attack does 104 damage for each card discarded in this way. We do have superior energy retrieval in the format now. Got a bunch of other water support in the format as well. You got the Palkia V-Star, you've got Greninja. I don't think you'd want to play this alongside Baxcalibur. That doesn't make a whole ton of sense. Maybe you still play it alongside Chi and Pao though to search your energy out of your deck. So a ton of water support. You can definitely put a deck together around the Blastoise EX. Kind of like the Venusaur. I'm a little bit less blown away by this, but yeah, 360 effective HP is a lot. Doing 280 damage is a very solid number still when it KOs all the V-Star Pokemon. And then you get a choice belt involved on this, and then all of a sudden you're one-hit KOing or you're also one-hit KOing all the EX Pokemon, to be honest. So stage 1 EX Pokemon, you're one-hit KOing all of those with this as well. And you get a choice belt on there, you're one-hit KOing stuff like Mew VMAX. So it does have the numbers. It can hit the numbers. Will it consistently get there often enough? I don't know, but it definitely has potential. Definitely worth testing and trying out Blastoise EX. Also with so much HP, probably hold up to some Lost Box variants. You are weak to Lightning though, so that's gonna probably be a little bit tough to deal with. Raikou's gonna come up and one-hit KO you. 2-for-2 prize trade, but you're a stage 2 EX. You had to set up there just kind of a basic, or 2 prizes still, but they're just a basic EX Pokemon they had to set up and get going. So not really, not as difficult for them as it is for you to set up your Pokemon. We got the Beedrill. I think this card is super cool, and I think if Lost Box wasn't such a big prevalent deck in the format, there definitely could be a deck built around this Beedrill. 130 HP for colorless, 30 damage. If you don't have any cards in your hand, this attack does 120 more damage, and your opponent's active Pokemon is now poisoned and paralyzed. Poisoned, paralyzed, and then also, you know, 150 damage. You could definitely set up a really cool Beedrill paralysis, stall, control, trapping your opponent's active type deck, where you combo this with like probably the Radiant Alakazam to move the damage counters off your opponent's Pokemon to make sure they get KO'd by poison, or you KO them going into your turn, or they get KO'd by poison coming into your turn, or you KO them with Alakazam on your turn, and then kind of set up some kind of paralysis chain type thing. But 130 HP, stage 2 Pokemon, Lost Box is a thing. Probably not going to see much out of the Beedrill initially. Maybe a little bit later on, rotation or 2 away from now, we could see it. Now we're getting into one of the cards that has been doing pretty well over in Japan, actually, and it doesn't look like a whole ton, I think, on surface level. That's not, and I thought the same thing when I first looked at the Arbok here. I was like, I don't know. It seems okay. 270 HP, stage 1 EX Pokemon, Dark, bind down 70 damage on your opponent's next turn. The defending Pokemon can't retreat. Not great. Then for Dark, 150, your opponent discards 2 cards from their hand. So it's not random cards like we've seen some cards have in the past, or even like randomly shuffle them back into your opponent's. But discarding 2 cards is still a lot of resources to lose if you're comboing this attack with Judge, or with Iono down to 2, or Roxanne down to 2, and then Menacing Fangs. They have to discard the only cards in their hand, and it is Dark type, weak to fighting. Being weak to fighting right now is really, really good. Dark type, that means you're one-hit KOing pretty much everything in the Gardevoir deck. Gardevoir EX is weak to Dark. The Shiny Arcana Gardevoir only has 140 HP. Zacian does have 220 HP, but if you want to do any relevant damage with the Zacian, you have to put enough damage counters on it where the Menacing Fangs could knock you out. And then if you're Ionoing them, or Judging them, or Roxanning them to a low hand size, it's going to be really hard to deal with. And the second most popular deck in the format, Guardy's probably the most popular deck in the format. The second most popular deck in the format currently is that Lost Box, and Lost Box hates getting hand disrupted to begin with, but imagine getting hand disrupted, your active attacker gets KO'd, and you have to discard 2 cards from your hand after you got like Judged or Iono to 4. That is pretty oppressive for Lost Box to deal with. This so far seems like the Guardy Lost Box killer, and it's been doing work over in Japan so far from what I'm seeing, just from like these gym city battle league type things over Japan, effectively like league challenges / league cups. So nothing huge yet. They haven't had a huge tournament with this set involved, and I don't actually think they will. They just had their Japan Championships recently, which is basically their big end of year tournament. So we're not going to see a big tournament with this deck legal, or with this set legal, until basically next season. So who knows how strong this really is, but against Guardian Lost Box, the two most popular decks in the format right now, Arbok EX seems super solid. So I'm definitely excited to potentially see a deck compete against those two, because they've been really good for a really long time. It would be nice to see a deck kind of take them down a notch for sure. The Sientu 60 HP trainer cards in your opponent's discard pile can't be returned to the deck by the effect of your opponent's item or supporter cards. It's actually a pretty cool card, cool ability. This set has a lot of these type of abilities where they're just really cool, and it's cool to kind of see them add these kind of effects just on random Pokemon that could possibly be good in, you know, pretty niche situations, but it's cool to have them around if those situations should come up. So this specifically will kind of shut down stuff like Silene to recover trainer cards, or the big one right now is going to be Palpad. Your opponent could not play Palpad to recover supporters. That's probably the biggest effect, the biggest situation that we could see Sientu kind of play into to shut down Palpad up against stuff like Guardy, or Mew VMAX also plays the Palpad, stuff like that. So yeah, really cool card on the Sientu. Definitely something worth remembering. It exists because, yeah, you never know when something like this is all of a sudden going to be a really, really good tech card in a certain meta. Look at the Neato Queen and Neato King really fast, because I think this deck will be a ton of fun. So not going to look at the Neato Queen here, but we will take a look at the Neato King. It has the ability King's Vigor. If Neato Queen is on your bench, it's that Pokemon's attacks cost no energy. So you're attacking for free, you got a Neato Queen on your bench, and then does 190 damage for Dark Colorless, or Dark Colorless. But if you have Neato Queen on your bench, you're doing 190 damage for free, and your opponent's active is now poison. So that's effectively 200 damage for 0 energy cost. I don't know. This could be a fun deck. This could be a cool deck. I don't think it'll be great. It's not looking like it'll probably be a competitive deck, but this is definitely a deck that I'm going to be personally trying to make work as best as I possibly can. We got the Clefable here. 100 HP Stage 1 Pokemon. I'm only going to talk about the Clefable real fast because it does combo really well in Zoroark box for Psychic, which you can set up for 1 energy attachment from a reversal energy. 50 damage if your opponent's Pokemon is knocked out by damage from this attack. Take 1 more prize card. So specifically, this could definitely find a home in Zoro box. You hit something really hard, but don't quite get the KO. Get the cleanup with the additional moon attack, and then because you get that extra prize card from the additional moon attack, it's not really like you fell too far behind on potentially the prize exchange. Also, maybe this card gives some hope for Zorobox in the Lost Box matchup, because additional moon plus the cleansing gloves is doing 80 damage to psychic Pokemon. Sableye, Comfey, both psychic Pokemon, drawing 2 prize cards there would be pretty good. So possibly some hope for Zorobox in the Lost Box matchup, which is one of its matchups where it struggles the most, and really what is keeping Zorobox from being a competitive deck is that matchup overall. Ninetales EX, Stage 1 EX, 260 HP, 1 fire, 30 damage. Your opponent's active is now burned. And then for Fire Colorless, 80 if you have the same amount of cards in your hand as your opponent, you do 140 more damage. So 220 for Fire Colorless, having to match your opponent's hand size. I don't think the Ninetales EX is anything great, but a different Stage 1 Pokemon that I think could be very strong is the Wigglytuff EX. 250 HP, got that expanding body ability. If this Pokemon has any special energy attached to it, it gets 100 more HP. That's 350 HP. And the attack is actually also not too shabby. Colorless, 90 damage if you played a supporter from your hand during your turn. This attack does 90 more damage. So effectively, you're going to be 2-hit KOing basically everything in the format, but most things are going to be 2, maybe even 3-hit KOing you. So you can kind of take that back and forth. Also, there's a Wigglytuff coming out or has already come out in Paldea Evolved, that allows you to accelerate therapy energy from your hand to your Pokemon. So a couple of those, couple Wigglytuff EX, double turbos. You're looking at like a nice turn to attack for 160 damage. Like I said, 2-hit KO and pretty much everything in the format. And then 350 HP. A lot of HP to work with. You can get Sharon's Care involved with this thing as well. There's a lot of cool things you could do with this Wigglytuff EX. So I'm definitely excited to try this one out as well. Definitely something I'm going to be looking forward to giving a shot. Let's get to this Vileplume line next. This will be a potential engine moving forward into the 151 set. You got the Gloom here. When it evolves, you can look at the top 3 cards of your deck and attach any number of basic energy cards you find to your Pokemon in any way you like. And then for the Vileplume, same thing, but you can look at the top 8 cards and attach any basic energy you find there any way you like. So you got a little bit of a build up here. The Oddish into the Gloom into the Vileplume to accelerate some energy into play. The question just is, what wants this type of energy acceleration? What needs that much potential energy in play that can't already get access to some kind of energy acceleration from somewhere else? I actually don't know. I haven't thought about this one a whole ton. I think it's a cool line here. The Vileplume line is cool. The energy acceleration is cool. But where does this find a home? I actually just don't know yet, to be honest. So if you guys know where this finds a good home, what this could combo with really well, let me know in the comment section down below, because I'm a little bit lost on the Vileplume. Put a little bit of thought into it. I haven't really come up with anything yet, to be honest. So let me know if you've thought about it a little bit yourself and have come up with the home for the Vileplume, or what you're going to be testing the Vileplume with as soon as it comes out. Do you have any plans for the Vileplume? Machamp is kind of cool, got a cool ability, 180 HP. Like a lot of Pokemon in this set have a lot of cool abilities. Guts, we've seen this exact same ability before on the Hariyama. If this Pokemon will be knocked out by damage from an attack, flip a coin of heads. This Pokemon is not knocked out, and its remaining HP becomes 10. Got that Mountain Chop for 100. Discard the top 2 cards of your opponent's deck for fighting. So I actually think the Machamp is pretty cool. Once again, this is like another deck where it's like, the reason it's not going to be good competitively is your Lost Box matchup will be terrible. Lost Box does not care about Guts. You're a stage 2 Pokemon, which means you have to evolve up through some soft 70 HP Pokemon, 100 HP Pokemon. Sableye loves that. So once again, Lost Box kind of being the gatekeeper in this format still moving forward, and will limit stuff like this Machamp from potentially seeing play. Because to be honest, if there wasn't something like Lost Box in this format, this would be a really cool, I want to call it, it probably is not going to make like a tier list type of deck, but it'd be a pretty cool rogue deck. This would be something that'd be like really cool to potentially see like make day 2 at a regionals. You know, it probably wouldn't do great. I don't think it's going to be pushing for any kind of top 8s, but I think it could potentially do that if something like Lost Box wasn't being such a gatekeeper right now, which it kind of is, unfortunately. But yeah, cool one there for sure. We'll keep moving right along here. The next one I want to talk about is the Dodrio here. The problem with this one is I don't think we have enough ways to get it up damage counters on the Pokemon, but it's got that Rampage draw. You must put a damage counter on this Pokemon in order to use its ability. Once in your turn, you may draw a card. So you can shoot the damage counter on it, draw a card. It's got the Raging Beaks attack, 10 plus 30 more damage for each damage counter on this Pokemon. So you're like, oh, that's pretty cool. 10 plus 30 for each damage counter for 1 colorless energy, and it puts damage counters on itself. But when you kind of do the math, if this was played in like a 1 prize deck, you'd be sitting there for like 6 turns. You'd maybe have 6, maybe 7 turns to build up damage counters on this. And then that's only like 280 damage. If you can do that, if you pull off like 7 turns of damage counter build up. And we do have stuff like the, Bog. And we also have, what else do we have? We have that Stadium where if you put an energy on your Pokemon, it's not a water Pokemon, you take 20 damage. Both of those are only plus 20 damage. We do have stuff like the Gengar you could put to the discard pile and then use the damage pump to move the damage off it, but that's a pretty big combo to be able to make Dodrio attack a little bit harder. But maybe there is something here with just kind of a straight up Dodrio type deck. I mean, attacking for 1 energy, especially at colorless energy, you can play Gift Energy, you can play, I mean, Gift Energy sounds really good in here. And if you could find just a bunch of ways to build up damage counters on your Dodrios, maybe there is something here. There could be something here. The more I'm thinking about it now, to be honest, I'm kind of seeing it a little bit more. I definitely, once again, Lost Box will destroy this deck, but not hitting up against any Lost Box, or maybe something comes out that like kind of keeps Lost Box in check. Maybe the Arbok will get Lost Box in check, and then it gives a chance for everything else to kind of thrive, and we see where it goes from there. But yeah, now I'm thinking about it a little bit more. I'm kind of a Dodrio fan for sure. I'm definitely going to be giving that one a shot as well. A lot of cool potential rogue decks to come out of the set. That is for sure. A lot of cool things happening with that. I'll mention this Chancey real fast. A little bit too much of a meme to probably be good, but lucky bonus. If you took this Pokemon as a face down prize card and your bench isn't full, you may put it onto your, you may put it into your hand. Before you put it into your hand, you may put it onto your bench. I was like, this is somehow getting to the bench. I know that for sure, but how's it getting there? Flip a coin. If heads, take 1 more prize card. So it's got to be in your prize cards. You got to pull it off your prize cards. You have to have a bench space open. You have to put it onto your bench, and then you have to hit heads on a coin flip. The card is obviously not good. Where is it? No, I don't think so. Even if you played 4 of them, that would be like bad. There's just no shot. There's just no shot. Let's continue. Not too much more to talk about here as it keeps rolling down. The Ditto, definitely potentially a cool inclusion in some decks. Transforming Start. You can only use the ability if it is in your active spot on your first turn of the game. Search deck for a basic Pokemon. Except any Ditto, if you do, discard this Pokemon and attach, and all cards attached, and put that Pokemon in its place and shuffle your deck. The best addition I've thought this could be good in is maybe Lost Box. It'd be pretty decent in Lost Box. You open it in the opening hand, becomes a Comfey. If you find it throughout your first turn, put it in the active, it can become another Comfey, or it can become the Cram to attack with for a turn. So that's it so far that I've seen that this can maybe be good with. I haven't really come up with anything else besides that, but I'm sure there might be some other situations where the Ditto would be pretty decent. Definitely a nice, once again, cool, interesting ability that kind of makes you stop and think. I like seeing those as much as possible. Here's another one, Snorlax with the Gluttony ability. Once during your turn, you may put up to 2 leftovers cards from your discard pile into your hand. So this theoretically could generate like infinite resources. If you got like, just like for example, 2 Kirlias in play, use Gluttony, you recover 2 leftover cards. You use both Kirlias, discard both of those cards, and you draw 4 cards. And you could theoretically repeat that process. You have infinite draw power with the Kirlia, turn after turn after turn through the Snorlax with the Gluttony, recovering leftovers. So this is definitely a very cool. I think this will see play eventually in some kind of infinite control type deck. The Snorlax will see play. Could be able to create infinite cards like that is good. It's definitely good. It's not one of those things where it's like, oh, every deck is all of a sudden going to play that because they don't like Ultra Balling away their cards, so they'd rather Ultra Ball away these leftovers over and over. Not like quite like that, but it'll definitely see play eventually. Mew EX with the restart ability. Once on your turn, you may draw until you have 3 cards in your hand. We got that Instructor Rangaroo coming back, but it's on a squishy EX Pokemon. 2 prize cards that only had 180 HP. That's not great, but the attack is pretty good. For Colorless Genome Hack, choose one of your opponent's active Pokemon's attacks and use it as this attack. So that's pretty solid. The attack, definitely solid. 3 colorless energy, could fit in a lot of decks in a lot of situations. Definitely a fan of the Mew EX. Once again, nothing too seemingly broken or overpowered, just cool, interesting ability, cool, interesting attack, cool, interesting card. A card that is not as cool or interesting and might be really annoying when it comes out. The energy sticker. Flip a coin of heads, attach a basic energy card from your discard pile to one of your bench Pokemon. Any basic energy to any bench Pokemon on a flip. Now, everyone was really scared of Turbo Patch when that first got revealed. And I don't know, we have another scenario where it was like good in like the Vikavolt deck and that was it when it first got released. And hopefully energy stickers, that exact same thing. Maybe it's good in one deck. I could see something like this being pretty good with actually like Ting-Lu, because Ting-Lu's kind of struggle right now is energy acceleration throughout the game. Being able to chain Ting-Lu after Ting-Lu is pretty tough. But the energy sticker might give it enough, that plus Koraidon in the early game, to kind of push it to be able to chain Ting-Lu to Ting-Lu to Ting-Lu and so on. So decks like that might really like the energy sticker. Also, maybe something, I guess, like Miraidon might get some value out of this as well. I don't know, maybe just playing more energy so your generators hit more often is going to be a little bit more useful. Got some new fossils, got the safety goggles. The basic one on this card is Tetsu has no weakness. I like that they limited this to basic Pokemon only. Would a weakness policy type situation, I wouldn't be a huge fan of that. Being able to take away Pokemon's weaknesses on a trainer card, not a huge fan, especially when we have like the most reliable or the only tool removal we really have is the Vacuum. Vacuum's like really not a good card to be playing in general in most decks. So yeah, limiting this to just basics is pretty cool. Big Balloon, the stage 2 Pokemon on this card, Tetsu has no retreat cost. I like that as well. Once again, could do a little bit of limiting. Now the Rigid Band seems super good though. The stage 1 Pokemon on this card is attached, who takes 30 less damage from attacks from your opponent's Pokemon. Stage 1 doesn't mean it can't not be an EX, so you can put this on EX Pokemon. So something like a Caparaja EX, where it has the ability where it takes 30 reduced damage from attacks, and then you put a Rigid Band on it, so it's taking 60 reduced damage from attacks, and it has, what does it have, 200 and, how much HP? It has a lot of HP. I forget how much HP it is, like 300 HP or something ridiculous. That's a lot. Reduce 60 damage. I don't know. This card seems super strong. The Rigid Band, it seems insane. Put this on the Wigglytuff. The Wigglytuff, 350 effective HP. When you have a special energy on it, put a Rigid Band on it, reduce the damage you take by 30. That's crazy. Yeah, the Rigid Band definitely seems sick. Big fan of this card. It doesn't seem too overpowered. The stage 2 EXs are definitely the big dogs. Giving some help to these stage 1 Pokemon, I think, is definitely pretty cool. Leftovers, heal 20 damage from your active Pokemon at the end of your turn. Decent tool card. Doesn't seem like anything too special. Erica's Invitation definitely seems like a control type card here. Your opponent reveals their hand, choose a basic you find there and put it onto their bench, then switch that Pokemon with their active Pokemon. So it does seem like more so like a control type card, but I also think this could be pretty good in, to be honest, a decent amount of decks in general. Being able to look at your opponent's hand, potentially put like a current meta like V Pokemon or like a Luminion, a Squawkabilly on the bench, bring it to the active, get a free 2 prize cards. I think as long while V Pokemon are around, Erica's Invitation has a lot more potential. Once the V Pokemon kind of rotate out, it won't have as much potential because you want to be able to take that, put that V Pokemon on the bench, bring it up, get like a 2 easy prize cards instead of going through a V Star on your turn. Maybe you won't be able to draw any prize cards. Going to that V Pokemon instead definitely seems pretty good. So Erica's Invitation definitely seems decent for sure. Speaking of control type cards, Giovannis Charisma. Put an energy attached to your opponent's active Pokemon into their hand. If you do, attach an energy card from your hand to your active Pokemon. Now, you don't have to do the energy on your side, but being able to limit your opponent's energy on their side could be pretty strong in some kind of control type deck, constantly just looping your opponent's energy out of play to the point where they can't attack or potentially retreat their active Pokemon, and you win through some other means, maybe deck out or something like this. So Giovannis Charisma, new control card for sure. Daisy's help, draw 2 cards, look at your face down prize cards. As a supporter, this seems a little bit too slow, and I think you'd always rather be playing like a heavy ball or something if you really want to know your prize cards. So yeah, Daisy's help, not great. Now, you don't shuffle the prize cards. That's like a big thing here, actually, I guess. You don't shuffle the prize cards again, so you look at them and you put them back down, I assume in the exact same way or exact same order. You don't shuffle them after you look at them, so you'll be able to know exactly where every single prize card is. Maybe that's worth playing a supporter for the turn to only see 2 new cards. Doesn't seem like it to me, but I mean, having that information could be pretty powerful. You also have to use it pretty early to get as much value out of it as possible. The later you use it, the more prize cards you've already drawn, and doesn't become very good at that point. Last one to take a look at here is the Cycling Road. Once during each player's turn, that player may discard a basic energy card from their hand. If they do, that player draws a card. So specifically, what I've already been thinking about this deck is the Arbok deck plays Dark Patch, and you get Dark Energy in your discard pile. Okay, Arbok, Dark Patch, Cycling Road. Also, from what I saw from Japan, the Arbok deck was also including Darkrai V-Star in their builds. So that's like a pretty straightforward combo with Cycling Road. Play it with Arbok, Dark Pokemon in general, be able to utilize Dark Patch more aggressively. So yeah, I don't know what else you'd really run this in besides that, but that's definitely a start for how to utilize the Cycling Road. It's not that powerful of a stadium card, and of course, you're always kind of giving this over to your opponent to potentially take advantage of as well. Your opponent could go from a dead card to discard a basic energy to having a research, so on and so forth. So not super powerful stadium card, but in stuff like a dark type deck with the Arbok and stuff like that, it does seem pretty decent. And that's gonna do it. This is my full set review of the Pokemon 151 set. Let me know what you guys think are going to be the powerful cards to taking a look at from this set. And did I miss any? Was there any cards? I didn't read every single card. Do you think I missed any game changers? Was there any of these cards that I didn't mention throughout this set review that you think, why didn't Azul mention that? Card's broken. What is it? Why is it broken? Why should I have taken a look at it and given a little bit more thought? Let me know in the comment section down below. And as always, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like. If you enjoyed the content, be sure to subscribe. And I'll catch y'all in the next video.